The Chicago White Sox lost in triple digits, including 121 games in the last 3 years. So just having even a winning record this year would have been amazing. And here we are on the brink of Labor Day, on the brink of September, and the Chicago White Sox are leading the AL Central, and their general manager, Chris Getz, joins us, John.
This is going to be a treat for us. We normally talk about the most disappointing team in baseball, which we know is the Mets. But the biggest and most pleasant surprise is the White Sox. And no question about that. Saw some other entities pick them to lose 100 games. I don't think we picked numbers, so we can't claim that we did that. And here they are leading the AL Central, and Chris Getz, the general manager, is a big reason for that. He has done a terrific job. We've never had him on the show before, and I'm very interested to hear what he has to say about their amazing turnaround.
Yeah, it is an amazing turnaround. We'll ask him about Murakami. We'll ask him about his trade deadline. We'll ask him about what he thinks of their chances down the stretch and to get in the playoffs. John and I will talk a lot about the Yankees and the American League at the top. We'll play hit or error at the end. If you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. John, it goes very fast, as you know. The next time we do a show, it will be September. So we're right at the end. We're about the 80% mark of the season. The AL is a bit of a jumble because, John, I wonder, can you make a case that the five best teams in the league are all in the AL East? That Baltimore or Toronto would win the Central or the West, and the other three teams, Boston, New York, and Tampa Bay, are the three best teams. So you got that, and then you got jumbles in the other two divisions. Leaves the Yankees in an interesting position. They're in second place. They're in hailing distance of first. They're 3.5 behind Tampa Bay, but they're only 2.5 up on Boston with a key series coming in the Bronx this weekend, 4 in 3 games. Uh, what say you about the state of the Yankees with about 20% of the season left?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in good shape. The health is really going to be the determining factor here, right? As long as you've got Judge and Freed coming back, and we're assuming at this point Stanton probably will not come back, but Judge and Freed are important parts of this team, and that's an understatement. If they get them back, they're the best team in the American League. They should win this league. This league is not very good, but that team looks good right now. You've got a shortstop that looks ready. I know he's made a couple errors over the last week, but Lombard Jr. looks very, very good. They're hitting a little bit better lately, and their pitching is outstanding. That bullpen has been terrific. And I mean, yeah, we might have four teams coming out of that division to make the playoffs, which we've never seen before. Toronto actually has a relatively easy schedule. The only winning team they have left, or at least non-losing team they have left, is Texas. I believe they're 500. So they may get in the playoffs, and we easily may have four teams in the American League East, and it's unbalanced. The league is unbalanced. The division is unbalanced. And right now, I think the Yankees are the favorite to come out. And I'm not saying anything people don't know. They should be the favorite to come out of the American League.
Yeah, John, I'm with you. I mean, before the season, I picked them to actually win the World Series, which I'd never done in over 30 years with the Post. I still think that the healthiest version of them is the Claire class, say this 5 times fast, of the American League. I think you hit on key ones. Judge and Freed are obviously great players, and they help the two most important things. A lineup that has mostly struggled since especially late June and just deep in the rotation. But can I throw in some other names? They did lose Ryan Weathers this week, and Weathers had really hit a gear here where he was pitching well, pitching deep into games, pitching well, often against good opponents, and clearly had separated himself for me from Will Warren, who has real trouble against good teams and against lefty hitters. I wonder about Clark Schmidt and I wonder about Luis Heel coming back for the bullpen. And here's why. They've just put a lot of burden on their main 3 or 4 relievers. And I think you've seen it recently, John. Boone has been using Ryan Yarborough a little more to try to displace some of the workload. I just think to displace the workload, maybe try to catch Tampa and be as fresh as possible on October 1st. they could really use, say, Hill and Schmidt to be back in, say, 2.5 weeks, maybe mid-September, and maybe Weathers towards the end to go into the bullpen also. And then you have the three main starters and a lot of relievers you might trust.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think the pitching is in great shape. They have the extra players coming back, as you mentioned. Schmidt and Heel will certainly be a big help, and that's probably why, with Weathers there potentially as well, that Cashman didn't go out and get a reliever. That plus the fact there were almost no good relievers to be gotten, right? I mean, when you're talking Zephyr John as one of your three best relievers to get, it was a very poor market for relief pitching. So I get why he didn't do it, and I think they're in excellent shape. Obviously, particularly Hedrick has been used a lot, Bednar as well, Blackburn, but they're still looking great. We have 30 plus games to go. They're looking fantastic, and they may get a little bit of a break, as you mentioned, with the pitchers that had been injured coming off the IL, and potentially, right, with potentially the Warren going into the bullpen as well, and Weathers.
Yeah, I think that Rodon will be the fourth starter and he'll be kind of the quickest for them to yank and try to play like Legion ball and go into a scramble and try to use some of this depth pitching if they could get there. Look, they haven't, it's been a mosaic, John. It's been to your point, and you've emphasized it. It's been the pitching has been very good, but they've never fully gotten to the full staff they kind of have dreamed about. It's still conceivable before October 1st. And if they get there, they're really a strength becomes a super strength if they could get it. But to me, still the key guy is Judge. John, I on our Yankee webcast yesterday, I established the over/under date as September 10th. I think he's starting to move in the right direction. Hit, run, field a little bit. I would think that the Yankees aren't going to do symbolic stuff just for the heck of symbolic stuff. But if he could be on the field September 11th, 9/11, the 25th anniversary, it's a Friday night against the Mets. So I made September 10th DH against the Rockies and September 11th back in right field for the Mets. And that's based on very little information, except for, Judge is aching to get back. And the
Right.
Yankees are aching for him to have some level of spring training for 15, 20 games to be able to really hit the ground running on October 1st into the playoffs.
Well, they've consistently said they expect him back. If he's not back, I don't think they're lying. I think they do believe that he'll be back, and they are. He is moving in the correct direction, right? He's now hitting off a tee, which is a big step from where he was. Remember, I don't know, was it a month ago? They weren't even letting him on that recumbent bike, that bike that us old men use in the work when we pretending we're working out and we're watching TV and going, 3 miles an hour or whatever. He wasn't allowed to do the stationary bike. So he's certainly progressed. I know it's not at the quickness that the fans would like, but if he's back in the middle of September, that should give him some time to, become the hitter that he is, which is the best hitter in the league. Yeah, I mean, that would be a good time. If he's back September 20th, I'm a little concerned. That isn't a lot of time. And, you can use the American League games to get back into playing shape because, they are the best team. They will be in the playoffs. If they have to play that first round, that few games, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a detriment. It's not the end of the world. The Dodgers had to do it last year, and they still won the World Series. And this league, to me, they should win this league. Boston's a good team. Tampa's a good team. The Yankees are a better team.
Yeah, I agree with you better, but like the Dodgers to me had a layup last year against the Reds. The Red Sox would not be a layup, and the Yankees haven't even assured yet that those games would be in the Bronx as
Fair.
opposed to Fenway. So I think that they will push to see if they can make the next to last series of the year is against Tampa Bay at Yankee Stadium. They'd like to make it that if they win the series, maybe they've got a real shot at winning the division and seeing if they could track them down. Because obviously, with the shape of the American League, whoever wins the AL East is going to be the number one seed and have all the benefits of that, not just a first round bye, but with all home field advantage through that. John, do we want to say something general about the worst league maybe you and I have covered in our 40-ish years of doing this is, as we're speaking, there's four teams over 500, three in the AL East, and one, the White Sox. Their general manager, Chris Getz, is joining us on the show later on this episode. And besides that, there's a couple teams at 500, and everybody else is kind of rise, sink, but
Right.
can't get over 500.
Well, you're absolutely right. I guess if we want to look at it positively, and I didn't, so I suggested to you this all the time, the worst league. Maybe the National League is the best league we've seen, right? If the American League is the worst, they are it's terrible, and that division is one of the worst divisions ever. I guess historically there was a 2018 AL Central that had a lower winning percentage than the AL West does now, but it's just a consistency of terribleness in that AL West where you don't even have a winning team at this point. We got a 500 team, and you have a team that's only a game below 500, but overall they're negative 400 approximately on the run differential. That's one of the worst divisions that we have seen, and certainly the Central is not exactly a bunch of world beaters either. So this is a very, very weak league. That said, I think the Yankees are a very good team. If they win, it's a worthy team in the World Series. Their pitching is excellent. I know their hitting has been horrid since Judge went out, but overall it is about average. And when you bring Judge back, it will be above average, certainly. Probably a little bit too reliant on the home run, but they do steal bases now more than they have in the past. They should win this league. If they don't win this league, that will be a real negative.
We're used to seeing managers fired during the season. Three of the three top baseball executives for AL West teams lost their jobs. Most recently, Dana Brown with the Astros, also Perry Minasian with the Angels, and David Force with the A's. I'll leave you with this thought, and I know you love when I drift into basketball analogies. Look, a lot of people talked about the Western Conference being much better than the Eastern Conference this year, and a New York team kind of being able to get through because Halliburton was missing and Giannis was missing, and that there were like injury. And ultimately, the Knicks got through, and then they beat the team in the West, in the Superior West. Could the Yankees follow the same road literally from there to the Canyon of Heroes, which is about 5 blocks that way behind me?
Yep.
Uh, it's New York has been Starford champions from the four traditional leagues, and it's not impossible that we get a second one because I agree with you. I think the Yankees are the healthy version, especially Judge and Fried. It makes them the team to beat in the league, even if they finish behind Tampa Bay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not a basketball guy. That is a good analogy. We all did watch the Knicks in New York, and they did have the advantage, from what I'm told, of the weaker conference, but they killed all the teams. So they were,
Yeah.
to me, and you know better than I do, they were worthy champion, right? And Jalen
Very
Brunson
worthy
is here. I
champion,
mean, the
yes.
fact they killed everybody and then came in and beat a great team in the finals, and I'll say the same for the Yankees, even if they slay all these weak American League teams. If you could somehow beat, we're not going to assume it's the Dodgers, and that they got some competition there, right? The Cubs are very good, the Braves are very good, the Padres are pretty good, and obviously the Brewers have the best record still.
You didn't even
So
mention the Phillies, who
Phillies
pitching
are they
wise could give them real trouble in the
they
post.
could, as long as Zach Wheeler is himself. But
Yeah.
yes, right, the National League, right? They have
Six
probably.
good teams.
Yeah, six really good teams, and they actually have a team that's pretty good, whether it's Arizona or San Diego, that's not going to make it. The American League's got two or three teams that are going to make it who aren't so great.
Yeah. John, actually, before we leave this segment, I'll throw it out. Do you think that anything in the first round should be home field or who you play should be determined by record, or if you win a division, bad luck to the teams that finish second and third in the AL East.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
this is unfortunate. So yeah, maybe they could look at this. If the Yankees have to play Boston, right? Uh,
yeah,
but
one of the
I
three
will
best
say
teams will be
this.
knocked out in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's fair to give the teams that have lower payrolls that are in the kind of in the central, the flyover states.
Yeah.
Maybe it's fair to give them more opportunity. I don't know. I have to think about that longer, but it does seem on its face that the Yankees and the Red Sox probably deserve a better fate than to play each other. They played each other last year, and I don't think anybody was saying anything about it, but this year it does feel that way.
Yeah. Look, there's four teams above 500 in the American League. Three are in the AL East. The fourth is the Chicago White Sox, the very surprising Chicago White Sox. Their general manager, Chris Getz, joins us next on the show. John and I are really thrilled to have on Chris Getz, 7 years infielder in the major leagues. He's been the general manager of the White Sox since August 2023, taking over in the middle of the bad times. Three straight 100 loss seasons, including a 121 2 years ago, over 100 last year. But as we're speaking now, the White Sox are leading the AL Central, maybe I think the most surprising team in the sport, up by 2.5 games on Cleveland, 4.5 on Minnesota. Chris Getz, thank you for joining us on the show.
Joel, John, thanks for having me.
Chris, I wonder if this just like what it changed. It felt like everything was gravy up until the trade deadline. Hey, look at the White Sox. Isn't this great? But I wonder once you start trading away, things that probably you thought were going to be part of your future, maybe in future years, does this change the pressure to now actually get this done and win this year, where it's not just, hey, it's a nice little year where it doesn't really matter what happens. It would have been a success.
Yeah, I continue to evaluate, and the fair question. I ask myself that, and of course, reflect and try to give good answers. And yeah, truthfully, I think the deadline is it's a marker, right? You're usually either adding or you're subtracting. In this case, we were adding. Now, everything up until then, you feel like you're playing with house money. Where the expectations were going into the year, we certainly felt that we were going to take a meaningful step forward from last year. Our second half, there were some real positives, but to say or to think that we were going to be, in the beginning of July, you look up and it's like we're in first place, and we've remained in first place for the most part. Yeah, that was not a realistic expectation. I would not have set that upon our players or staff. Now, here we are, and is it validation to a process that we felt very confident that started, when you stated and when I took over and tried to build a foundation. Sure, it is, and I think it is rewarding to get results like we have, and arguably in a fairly quick manner. Now, you get past this trade deadline, and all of a sudden, every game feels a little bit heavier than perhaps games in the past. I think, we have two walk-offs over the weekend on Friday and Sunday, and just exhilarating moments for everyone that's part of this. And then last night, we have a rough one against the Rangers, and you wake up this morning, you're like, man, what happened yesterday? And so it's just you can have these swings of emotions. Now, I when you think about our manager and Will Venable and these players, and this is where Will is what I feel like the best at, and that is create an environment. Let's solve for the day. Let's not worry about what happened yesterday. And I would say everyone tries to be that way, but he lives that way. He really does, and that brings freedom and relaxation and optimism on a regular basis. Are there times right now where man, we might be gripping it a little tight? Sure. That's where I come in, and other members of the organization try to either loosen things up or identify some things that can help fuel the club. But when you zoom out and you reflect and find, it's very easy to find perspective. We've had an excellent year considering where we were. And I don't want to lose sight of that. I also know that these are precious moments. They are, and you can't just assume that you're going to be in these positions moving forward. I think truthfully, I've had these conversations mainly during the deadline. Hey, this is the most fun we might ever have, considering what the expectations were, and we're out here and we're doing what we're doing. So let's try to have fun while we're doing it.
How did you approach the deadline? I mean, you were in a position where even you admit you didn't expect to be with a chance to not only win the wild card, but to win that division. But on the other hand, didn't feel like you were a World Series contender. Did you approach the deadline? And you did a lot. We're not going to trade our top few, and you didn't trade the very top prospects on the team. How did you look at it? And now looking back on it, how do you feel that you did?
We look at our priority list, or we put one together, and starting pitching was at the top. We're at the bottom of the league in regards to starting pitching innings, and we all know that it's not a very sustainable model. Our bullpen has been a real strength of ours, especially recently. Now, if you're not getting starter innings, it's going to come at a cost of bullpen production. So, we were set out. Okay, we need to find some starter innings. We did feel like our depth, whether it be Drew Thorpe that's back, Noah Schultz now option, Shane Smith. There's a couple. Oh, we've got Davis Martin, who will be bouncing back. We felt like there was some depth there for some innings. Urquidy was a guy that was kind of a small acquisition to at least cover some innings as well, and he had a great outing against the Cubs last night. It was a little bit more of a struggle for him, but we needed to find someone that could really cover innings and maybe multiple people. And then, all right, can we add fuel to the bullpen? The catching situation has been a bit of a revolving door. We lose Kyle Teal at the WBC going into the year. You feel like this could be, arguably one of our top players, if not our top players. So certainly one of the more exciting young catchers in the game, and you lose him. We took a hit, and we've been playing catch up. At least Kyle Teal's been playing catch up, and thankfully we're going to be. He's beginning to rehab tonight, and then okay, our offense. It's been better than expected. Certainly, we've hit for power. But I feel like there's some exposure against left-handed pitching. Can find ways to improve that. So, but starting pitching was number one. Now, it's one thing to have your concerns and you have your desires and wants and go out there. Well, then all of a sudden you realize it's not as easy as you would like, and it takes other teams to want to engage, and it was an interesting trade deadline because usually you start a couple weeks out from the deadline having conversations. What are you trying to accomplish? But there wasn't a lot of clarity for teams, and so okay, we'll wait another week. We'll see if we gain clarity. Well, there wasn't that much more clarity. And it became, all right, you're now within days. And teams were really deciding within days which direction they were going. And then some teams just decided to hold. There were some teams that, okay, automatic, they're not going to be in the playoff hunt. However, they're thinking about, the following year, and perhaps they want to, carry some momentum into going into the following year, even with expiring contracts of players. So maintaining that. So I mentioned all of that. Yeah, we were open to adding more than one starter, multiple, but the it was really difficult thing to do. Luis Castillo, in terms of acquisition cost, and we had some payroll flexibility, and okay, that was an opportunity to get a veteran in here that's done some things in this game, has a presence, leadership qualities, can provide some innings. Okay, you put that on the board. You feel good about it. Okay, what else is out there remaining? And some of it was our system. We've graduated so many players to the major leagues. We didn't want to disrupt our major league club, right now and adding pitching. I just, that this year was not a year to have that level of disruption. Because it's just a group that they love each other, they feed off of each other, and there was a lot of value in that. So, but because we graduated so many players, didn't want to sub and subtractions. Okay, well, how does your system line up in regards to other teams and how they're valuing your players? It became challenging for us. It did. And, there's different ways of doing it, volume deals, or perhaps you've got something in the sweet spot that aligns. So that was a little bit of a limiting factor in regards to our system, but also, the team's willingness to trade, their starting pitching because they want to get to the finish line in the best way that they can. On the catching front, we were able to get Joey Bart. Now he gets hit in the hand. 2 days into wearing a White Sox uniform, and we're back to, waiver claim of Jake Rogers, who had a big hit the other night. And of course, we're waiting for Kyle Teal to come back. So Brazaban pitching really well with the Mets. You acquire him, a controllable player, a guy that's pitched some big innings. So you felt like, okay, you didn't necessarily accomplish as much as you wanted on the starting pitching front, help out the bullpen a little bit, and plug in, a Brenton Doyle in the outfield to give you a little bit more security and flexibility on that front. So, I feel we did feel like we provided depth for our club that was not going to just show up. And if you just focus on maybe those individual performances, it did provide, I think, some support, and with some control. So it's yet to be seen right now. I can't say that we've necessarily filled the immediate, felt the immediate impact from the trade deadline, but you take what you can get, and you continue to roll. Our future success, whether it be this year or next year, is going to be the group that we have. The needle mover just wasn't there. We wanted to maintain, the top of our system, and the Caleb Bonhamers, the Billy Carlsons and the Hagen Smiths. So we were able to do that, and we just stay in the fight and continue to find ways to support this club.
Chris, you mentioned Brazoban. You made a trade with the Mets in the offseason where Luis Robert Jr. went to the Mets. Brazoban just went to you. It's interesting who thought they were a contender in the offseason and who ended up being a contender in that relationship. Tell us about dealing with the Mets and David Stearns. You've made two pretty high-profile trades with them.
Yeah, I really like dealing with David, and he's you know everyone's got their different styles, their communication style. Some, I've learned some like text, some are better over the phone, some are in a negotiation. There's different tells or different tactics where David seems very direct. He knows what he wants to accomplish. I appreciate that. So we can get to clarity very quickly. So when David made it clear that they were looking to move some players, and we earmarked a handful of players on that club. I thought he did a really good job at the deadline. And I communicated that to them after the fact. Because I think from afar, okay, you've got these high profile players with high dollars. What are they going to be able to accomplish? Well, I felt like they did a really good job. But I've got a lot of respect for David, what he's done in this game, and the challenge that he has in New York. And I think he did a really good job at the deadline. We just played them over the weekend, and we were fortunate to win 2 out of 3 games on walk-offs. So we'll call that, we locked into those. But they're playing a lot better baseball. They've got some young, exciting position players and young starters that pitched really well. So I feel like they've been able to refill their system or fill their system, and kind of reset the deck going into next year. But David, we have done some deals, some deals that are higher profile, but I do like dealing with him. He seems to be a straight shooter and an honest broker, and have some fun in those conversations.
Murakami has been, if not the best signing of the winter, certainly one of the best signings. If you could say briefly when you thought you had a chance, because I know you've said you really didn't think you had a shot at him for quite a while. When you thought you had a chance, and I mean, he's not only a great hitter, he's done decently at first base. I mean, walks a lot, home runs. He's been great, and he's very marketable. Yet you got him on a great deal. The other part of that question is, can you keep him long term? Are you going to try to do that?
Yeah, well, going back to the signing Mune, it really came down days out from when that posting window was closing. For whatever reason, there's different variables when it comes to posting windows in the off season, and how that overlaps with other free agents and activities from teams. It was a good match. It was, and very fortunate to bring him in here. We felt like the deal that we got, we viewed it as just upside, based on kind of where we were sitting as an organization. He's been just a tremendous boost. It's just feel like the the White Sox, the fans, certainly, the players, we've come alive. We have, and it was a huge help in doing that and bringing him in. So, yeah, he's been, he played a lot of third base prior to coming over to play to Major League Baseball. We felt like he was going to be able to be a decent first baseman. I think that's where that's what he's provided. That type of production over there. He works his butt off. I mean, he's one of the hardest workers that I've seen and been around on both sides of the ball. Great teammate. He really is. Guys have just fallen in love with him, and I think he's really happy here, and we're happy to have him here. We would love to have him here long term. It seems that he has interest, and we do as well. We've had some conversations, but we'll just leave it at that. In the meantime, hopefully he can help us get this season to a finish line, and we feel really good about our 26th season.
Almost whatever happens, you're going to feel good about the 2026 season. From 20,000 feet, this has been a bad league this year. As we're sitting here, you're one of the four teams over 500. Do you think you're taking advantage of a bad time in the American League, or do you give me the sales pitch that this is step one, that you believe that you have a core group together, that this is now the White Sox moving forward for several years, and that you're going to be a factor in playoff races beyond just this season?
Well, you look at a run differential, and obviously that factors in our league as well because those are the teams that we're playing often. But reflecting back to last year, our second half, run differential, same thing this year. You look at our lineup. There's versatility, there's lefty, righty, it's young players, it's controllable. Our bullpen, Grant Taylor, what he's been able to provide. Hudson, Ian Newcomb's, going to be a free agent at the end of the year. You look at some of our young starters, and certainly no one ever feels good about the depth of starting pitching. And that's something that you continue to focus on. You look at what Caleb Bonham has done as one of the top prospects in minor league baseball. You introduce Hagen Smith to the big leagues, and he's been a real weapon already out of the bullpen. We feel like a young, exciting team that is hungry, that is learning how to win and getting results. Are we fortunate to be playing in a season where the league does seem to have some teams that are under 500? Sure, certainly, but it's tough to really value what confidence can do for a club. That's a real thing. And we took a step back forward. We took a step forward last year, taking another step next year. Do we think that we're solidified and we're good to go? Absolutely not. But we know that we're a nimble organization. We've got a process. We can adapt. We'll see what the free agent market looks like. We'll see what the trade market looks like. We feel really good about Will Venable and our coaching staff. Our front office continues to grow and learn. And we feel like we're equipped. We do to continue to have success. So 26. It goes without saying. We feel really happy about what we've been able to accomplish, but we don't think that this is a one hit wonder. We don't. We think we're entering into a stage that's going to be really exciting for White Sox fans and baseball fans. It's been fun, the amount of people that have kind of come out of the woodwork and really recognize what we've been able to accomplish. It's a great story. It really is. And I don't think it's a story that's just going to end here after the 26th season.
How is it for you? I mean, reportedly, the White Sox had the lowest revenue in baseball last year, which is really something because we expect that to be the Marlins or the Rays. I'm watching your games on TV. You're drawing a ton of fans. I mean, you said you expected a step forward. I know there was a national entity that still thought you were going to lose 100. What did you expect? And as you live through this, how are you feeling walking around? I mean, you got to be pretty proud of the way things have turned out.
Well, you talk about the fans, and we've had Monday and Tuesday night games that are approaching 30,000, where that just certainly wasn't the case last year. But this fan base is certainly shown up before. It's a fiery bunch, a lively bunch, and they love their baseball. And a message that I've tried to convey to our fans. I felt it last year in these Friday night games, these City Connect nights, and fans coming out to support. But watching our young players respond to those environments, our record last night or last year in Friday night games was a pretty good record. And so, it's I feel like our fans are part of the development of our young team, and I think that they've really embraced that. And there's some real excitement. And then you go and play the Cubs last week at Wrigley, and a lot of White Sox fans, certainly a lot of Cubs fans, and it was just something really special for our players to play in that environment. Yeah, we lose the series, but three really exciting games. Split the series overall, but it's quite an accomplishment to bring these fans back. Certainly we put them through something that was not pleasant, but we certainly appreciate that they're back. I think we're just entering into something that it can be really special for this city, and you feel good. Honestly, you do. That doesn't mean that after games like last night or that you don't feel it. But I think yeah. Once you're able to zoom out and realize what you've been able to accomplish in a fairly short period of time, it's rewarding for me in the organization.
Chris, as a way to wrap this, I do want to point out you already have drawn more fans this year than in the past 2 years, and you still have 15 home dates left. Uh, those dates will mean a lot, right? If you'll hold this. Why don't you tell us a thing or two that is on the architect's mind over this last month? What needs to happen, in your opinion, for the White Sox to finish this off and win the AL Central?
Well, it's you find different ways to fuel the club. Sometimes it's an inject of a player. Sometimes it's getting creative with the schedule. It's encouraging these young players. The young players usually haven't played this late into the year, let alone meaningful games. And just continuing to remind this group how special they've made this for the organization. So I can't say that that you look at the standings, you look at the schedule, you look at our schedule. I know that you look at what Cleveland and Detroit and Minnesota. We're going to have some opportunities playing against those clubs again. They're going to look at it as an opportunity to play against us. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, and I think that's really the biggest message is, hey guys, you remember what has gotten us here. We're gonna find opportunities to fuel this team in different ways, and we'll see where it takes us. Yeah, we're playing with house money, but you can only go with that mindset for so long. But finding ways to keep this group loose, having fun. They play happy, and we just need to continue to nurture that.
Well, Chris, it's a remarkable story 5 months into the season where you were. Should I point out that I called you in the offseason and told you I thought you were going to be much better, and we had a long conversation. I didn't think it was going to be this, right? When we were talking, and then we talked again in spring. But it's a great story. Your fan base is picking up on it. The nation's picking up on it. Obviously, people who follow baseball, and you're right in the thick of things. So, Chris, congratulations on that, and thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the support, and hopefully we can finish strong.
Good luck. Good talking to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
John and I, of course, thank Chris Getz for joining us on the show. John, hit or error?
I'm going to give a hit to Pete Crow Armstrong, who is now the favorite to win the National League MVP, which everybody gives to Ohtani before the season starts and probably long into the season. And when he was number one pitcher for the first half and hitting basically like he always does, everybody felt that it was probably a fait accompli. And Pete Crow Armstrong has played so well that he is actually favored now to win the MVP. So I'm going to give him a hit this week.
Yeah, that's going to hurt the Mets forever, right? That trade.
Oh, man.
Baez for PCA. PCA would be really something in New York, the way he is a five-tool player and helps every day in some way. I mean, to the point where I know we kind of normalized Ohtani pitching. I mean, if he did nothing else, he did start 14 games with a 1.70 ERA, and we're kind of like, well, that happened in the first half. Plus, he has offensive numbers
Yeah.
without the stolen bases like PCA.
Right.
Question will be how to balance that. I think I am not an NL MVP voter this year. I know which committee I'm on already. I'm not, but I think it would be an interesting conversation, like to juggle. Does PCA do enough on defense and the bases to, if you have similar offense to a guy who also started at least 14 games this year with a 170 ERA? I think it's a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, PCA has the advantage in the war right now. I think the war is really, I think it's a lot closer than
Yeah.
that war situation gives the PCA such an advantage. You get an advantage for playing a position. Ohtani's a DH, but he's also a pitcher. So, I think he's unnecessarily punished for the way that it's set up. Nobody expected somebody to be a great pitcher as well. A great pitcher for half a year is extremely valuable, as you point out. Right. When you go to and when we're at the deadline, everybody was certainly clamoring who had the prospects for Skubal or any great or even good or even serviceable starting pitcher. There was a great defensive center fielder available, Brenton Doyle from the Rockies. It was a footnote when he was acquired by the White Sox. So the value of a half year of pitching might be a lot, might be more, or even a lot more than a great year of center field defense. But I think it's about the narrative too. PCA has just won so many big games. Look at the win probability added. It's about the story, and I hope it's not about voter fatigue. Maybe I have voter fatigue, although don't have that vote. We would, in a way, a little bit like to see somebody else win. Although I think everybody votes for the person that they believe deserves it, not just keep it away from somebody because he's won a lot.
Yeah, yeah, John, I hope that's how people vote. And like look at it this way. If somebody was a DH and had all of Ohtani's attributes and they were also like a league average starter, like they had a 3.6 ERA and
Right.
15 starts, we'd be like, what an amazing. I just think we've
It's
the
unbelievable. It
comparison
really
again.
is.
I
No, I
I I,
know.
I did this with Judge last year, where he had another 200 plus OPS season. And, we were talking about if it should be Raleigh and not, who obviously I think there was a good case for Raleigh. But I was like, we've normalized 200 OPS plus seasons in the way that we normalized what Michael Jordan did. And then you end up giving Karl Malone and Charles Barkley MVPs when Jordan's clearly the guy.
Right. And then
Because
Jordan
people
got
have,
so mad about it that it,
right.
it, it energized him to win every championship to
Yes.
prove them wrong.
Yes. You
So
beat
I've
both
been
guys in the
watching the
finals, right?
I've been watching The Last Dance, so I know that.
Yes.
He was not happy.
I'll do a real quick hitter error. Just I was going to do something else, but because you did an awards, I'll do mine real quick because I wrote about this today in the paper in the Post. I like the AL Cy Young race. I like that on Friday night, Schlittler really grinded and did 6 1-run innings, and then Cease no hit the Yankees into the seventh inning. Ended up giving up 2 hits and a run, so 6 1/3, 2/3, and a run. He walked 5. It's a very close race. I think Schlittler is ahead right now. He has a little more volume, a lower ERA. The place where C certainly makes up for a lot of this is he's the premier strikeout guy in the American League, at least, not Mizorowski is in the entire sport. But it's close enough that these last 4 or 5 starts are going to matter for both guys. And Schlittler, which is already an amazing story considering where he was drafted from a literally a northeastern school, and throwing 90 miles per hour to just be in this conversation late is something. And this is something I thought about over the weekend, John. If I had told you nothing else about the AL champions, but that they were going to sign Cease and Cease was going to be in total competition for the AL Cy Young, you'd be like, wow, Toronto might repeat as AL East
Right.
champions and maybe AL champions. And here they are. They've been below 500 pretty much the whole season, and they're struggling to just even be the third wild card. But it's not because of Dylan Cease, who's been brilliant and is putting a lot of pressure. Schlittler's going to have to finish strong if he wants to win this award.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge for Schlittler will be the number of innings. Cease is the most reliable pitcher in baseball over the last 7 years, along probably with Aaron Nola. They've pitched basically been the most dependable making every start. Now, he did miss 2 starts this year,
Yeah.
so he is a little bit behind on the innings right now. Actually talked to Cease about this a couple days ago when I was out at the stadium, and yeah, I mean, I said he was a little behind. I mean, I think that's pretty clear at this point, right? Because Schlittler has more I think about 14 more innings, and he's got a lower ERA. At this moment, the strikeouts don't make up for it. But I think if Cease passes him on the ERA, it might be the best 2 out of 3 who gets between strikeouts, innings, and ERA. And it will be a challenge for Schlittler. He's a big guy who's worked so hard to become, as you said, from Northeastern, literally, and number seventh round pick to become arguably the best pitcher in the league this year. It's a great story, I believe in him. I think everybody who's a Yankee person or in New York probably does, but it'll be a challenge to beat out Cease because Cease, is going to make the starts and he's going to strike out a lot of people. It's not a guarantee. It's as you said, very close.
Tidbit, I think I'm right on the number. I know I'm right on the fact. I think it's 1.14 is Schlittler's road ERA. There has not been a regular starter who's had a lower road ERA since Greg Maddux in 1995, 1.12, I think it was. So Schlittler, and by the way, when you talk to Schlittler, he's not proud of that. He's pissed at how badly he's pitched at the Bronx. So like it says a lot
He's the
about
best.
him. Yeah.
Yes, we love Schlittler, friend of the show
Yeah.
also, so we love the
Yes,
guy.
and a good interview in that clubhouse. You mentioned dependable. It describes our producer Tommy Hogan. Tommy, thank you so much as always for helping us put the show together. Please subscribe, rate, and review on you pick your podcast site, Apple, Spotify, wherever. The New York Post Sports YouTube page. Give us a view. All of this helps the show. And please continue to stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman.